Alright, let's start by showing off my fancy new water. If you look at this image, I got shitty internet right now. Let's see, wait for it to load. There you go. If you look at this water, I finally got it to tile. And now I figured out how to do it, and I made a blog about it. If you guys want to see the blog, it's called "Why Does My Animated Water Look Fine But Water Flow Doesn't?" And then it basically gives a description on what it looks like, how to fix it. You need mirror, because water runs diagonally, you're gonna have to mirror it. You'll see when you do that. And it basically shows this. I ended up with a really good tileable water, but just to give an example of how extremely good it is, I'm going to show you what it looks like when it runs diagonally. I think I could have done a little bit better on the texturing, but it's almost not noticeable that there's a little bit of clipping there. But overall, the water itself, it doesn't clip at all with itself. If you look at these, yeah. So that's what I just wanted to show with this video, was basically my progress. This is my regular water. This is something I've been working on for like a year pretty much, and then I finally figured out how to make my own from, scratch on gimp flowing water texture that I basically did by hand using I think it's iWarp. I made this with iWarp, and then I followed it up by adding 32 animations, so that way it would finally do this that you see going on right there. It's an iWarp animation, if you guys ever want to know about that. I also used iWarp on this texture you see going cascading down, but the difference with that is that I manually doubled the texture, 2 by 1, or 1 by 2, excuse me. So it's a texture that you basically make a long rectangular shape out of, and then you move it down by the amount you need to. So since there's 32 animations, if you have a 32 by 32 texture, you move it by 1. But since I have a 128 by 128 texture, I move it down by, I think, 4. Each animation moves down 4 pixels, excuse me. And that's how I made it cascade down. But the animation that's there is iWarp, and then to make it a little bit more familiar, I added the water flow texture in there too. But basically all this is a half resolution texture of what it used to be, which if you looked at it before, it had like a weird clipping because it would take 1/4 of your entire texture and texture that over and over and over and over again, just as I showed in the blog. So it looked horrible. So you end up having to shrink it 1/4 of its size, mirroring it, so that way when it goes diagonally, you're mirroring it so that way it doesn't clip necessarily when it's going this way. So I mean, mine's clipping a little bit, but it's not a perfect mirrored, or how do I say, it's not the textures aren't mirrored perfectly. I mean, it goes from the center out, I use iWarp if you guys ever want to use that to make like the subtle changes in the water and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how I did it. I mean, I know a lot of people use custom programs made by other people, but I did this all by hand. If you guys ever wonder how I did it, um, I think that's all I wanted to say. If you guys are curious about how to make your own water textures, which, you know, for the longest time, I mean, I couldn't figure it out, but then, you know, I just thought about it, and I was just lucky that the idea that I came up with to solve that solution was something that's probably you know, on the internet, but you know, I couldn't find a way to describe what my problem was and, you know, look it up. So I just had to figure out a solution myself, because most of the people out there seem to be having the same problem I have, and basically that's how I solved my problem with the water texturing problem that I've been having for so long. That's all I want to say. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I guess have a great day or great night, depending on what time you're watching this video at. Later.